It is Rapid 96.5 FM, the sound of your city. I am Kamyong John, the beloved, also known as the controversial, and it is part 2 of our special focus edition on Standpoint. And today we will be, as we did on Monday, or Monday's edition of the show, review the big stories that occurred during the first half of the year, talking about January to the month of June 2023. Now, today's focus is the Central Bank of Nigeria's insistence that the old 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes remain legal tender till December 31, 2023. The unveiling of Nigerian Air, fuel subsidy removal, and of course, the Dangote refinery. My guest this morning, running a bit late. One, unfortunately, will not be making it. The group managing director, the Beams Group, the parent company of the Beams Soft Hub, Dr. Pascal Arinze Etier. Sadly, we got word just a few minutes before I stepped into the studio that his younger brother was kidnapped this morning, and our hearts and go and support go to the family of Dr. Arinze, and we do hope that security agents will spring into action to ensure the safety of his younger brother. While my second guest is running late, Godfrey Kelechukwu Godfrey, a business analyst, and hopefully he will join us at some point during the show as we continue to review the first half of the year 2023. Well, like we say, the show must go on, and so we will begin to look at the issues as they have occurred in the first half of the year. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has restored the old 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes to remain as legal tender until December 31st of 2023. Now, according to CBN spokesman Isa Abdulmumuni, in his quote, and I quote, in compliance with the established tradition of obedience to court orders of the rule of law and sustenance of the rule of law principle that characterized the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, and by extension the operations of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, as a regulator, deposit money banks operating in Nigeria have been directed to comply with the Supreme Court ruling of March 3rd, 2023. Now, reacting to the CBN spokesman's comment, the presidency at the time said the CBN did not need a directive from President Muhammadu Buhari to comply with the Supreme Court order to extend the validity of the old Naira notes till December 2023. Now, the aim of our discussion this morning, or our conversation, is to examine what were the essential failures of the cash swap policy, with a bid to find answers to systemic gaps and, of course, improve future monetary policies as far as Nigeria and Nigerians is concerned. It's important that we move promptly to understand what went wrong and determine how to fix it. Of course, by the time my financial analyst comes into the house, we would look at what the essential failures of the cash swap policy were. But also, don't forget, we will also be looking at the subject of subsidy removal. Well, the removal of subsidy on premium motor spirit by the federal government has been grudgingly accepted by Nigerians as the right thing to do in prevailing circumstances. We'll get into further details of all of this and more, hopefully by the time my guest eventually makes it for us to have this conversation. But if not, at some point we will lay the fundamentals, as it were, as with regards to some of these developments and policies, and then probably open the phone lines, try to get your reactions to some of these developments, and with a view to us being able to prefer workable solutions for government, especially in the second half of the year 2023. Just like Abians, Nigerians are highly expectant of economic and developmental policies that will change the trajectory of the current spate of the Nigerian state. Of course, latest indices from the World Bank show that poverty remains a prevalent problem as far as the Nigerian populace is concerned. According to the World Bank, Nigerians will plunge even further into poverty. All this and more will form our conversation this morning right here on this special focus edition of Standpoint. I am Kamian John. We'll take a quick breather. When we return, hopefully, fingers crossed, my guest will be here, and then we get to have this conversation on this special focus edition of the show. Do stay with us.
Celebrating your family and friends has become cheap like a cup of tea, easy as ABC, and rapid like it should be. You can send birthday greetings and goodwill messages on Rapid FM for just 1,000 naira. Other events like weddings, child dedication, housewarmings, religious and government functions go for even less, 500 naira. Now, your loved ones have no excuse not to celebrate you rapidly on your day, because all they have to do is visit our website at www.rapidfm965.com/request or call 07049 220965.
Make you paint your house with Sackloss. The beauty go last year because Sackloss.
My guy, which kind of paint I fit use? We go make my house go well.
Na Sackloss paint.
Paint we go make my house shine.
Sackloss paint.
What about paint we go last for plenty years?
Na still Sackloss paint. Sackloss paint na ogbonge paint wey don win both national and international award on top paint matters.
Abeg, where dem dey?
Dem dey nationwide. Sackloss paint get one ogbonge wey dem call Sackloss satin paint. If dirty touch the paint, you fit use water and soap take clean and cha-cha. Sackloss paint get other ones like emulsion paint, test coat, gloss, sack flash car paint, matte, industrial marine coating, red oxide primer, aluminium, screening paint, auto varnish, and other Barbares products. For that correct building, paint where you need na Sackloss paint. Their price na shipping. For more information, call
0701 855 2224.
Don't ever believe that a politician is a leader. Don't ever believe that. Because the system that we have produces politicians. It doesn't produce leaders. And so you can have a politician who knows nothing about leadership and he's leading you. Politicians are concerned about the next election. That's all they're interested in. That's why they cannot be leaders. But leaders are different. Leaders are concerned about the next generation. I want you to compare those two thoughts the next time you have a politician come to your house wanting to vie for your vote. Just ask him, what is your vision for my children? I will sit and listen for 20 minutes for you to tell me what it is. He will leave your house because he has no interest in your children's children. His concern is to stay in power, to keep the position, to win the next election. This is why they cannot lead. When you are going to have a conversation with a politician, you should actually try this as a test. You, by the way, as a citizen of a community, you have a right to be seen by the mayor. Hope you know that. If you voted for a mayor, the mayor works for you. Therefore, you have a right to see him. You can make an appointment to see any public officer you voted for. Did you know that? That's your legal right. If he don't want to see you, you can take him to court. That's democracy. So I want you to make an appointment to go and see your mayor or go and see your governor and just sit and say, I want 30 minutes with you, sir. And ask him about that list right there. Sir, what is your purpose for being in leadership in this city? What is your purpose? The first question will make him very nervous. Second question, what is your passion for our community? He'll be wondering what you're talking about. What are you talking about? I just want to build roads and bridges and provide jobs. No. What is your passion? And this is why we need to question the leaders we have. And so I have a little thought here. I call it politics versus leadership. Let's talk about it for a second. Number one, politicians focus on programs, not vision. Number two, politicians' priority is securing the next election, not securing the next generation. Their focus is different. Number three, politicians are preoccupied with promises, not purpose. What we need is statesmen, stateswomen. We don't need more politicians. A statesman is an interesting human. A statesman think of the next generation.
Let's talk politics, dynamics, and permutations.
It is a concern that we have for our country, Nigeria. This is beyond partisan politics. It's unfortunate. And these are the kind of people who say that leaders of this country. What example are they showing as leaders of the country?
Let's keep you abreast with the happenings in the polity.
Nigeria is on drip and on oxygen. And how can we get part of this?
I am an employer of the president. I pay the president's salary. I pay the bills of his family. And he must protect me.
Standpoint. The center of all talks of politics.
Standpoint, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. on Rapid 96.5 FM, Umahia.
More Nigerian is more Nigerian than any Nigerian. That's right.
Thanks for staying with us. It's still Standpoint on Rapid 96.5 FM, the sound of your city. I am Kamion John, the beloved, also known as the controversial. And of course, it's a special focus edition of Standpoint as we continue our review of the big stories that occurred during the first half of the year from January to June 2023. Now, today's focus is the Central Bank of Nigeria's insistence that the old 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes remain legal tender till December 31st of 2023. The unveiling of Nigerian Air, the subject of fuel subsidy removal, and of course the Dangote refinery. To X-ray these issues. We should have even delved into these issues before we went on that break, but I'm still expecting Godfrey Kelechukwu. Godfrey, a business analyst, and unfortunately, or sadly, Dr. Pastria Arinze Tier, the group managing director, the BIMS Group, was also supposed to be part of this conversation this morning, but sadly could not make it. Well, just before the break, I did talk about the fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria had restored the old 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes to remain as legal tender until December 31st of 2023. Now, according to the CBN spokesperson Isa Abdul Momoni, and I quote, in compliance with the established tradition of obedience to court orders and substance of the rule of law principle, that characterized the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, and by extension the operations of the Central Bank of Nigeria as a regulator. Deposit money banks operating in Nigeria had been given directive to comply with the court ruling of March 3rd, 2023. And of course, reacting to the CBN spokesman's comment during the first half of the year when the subject of the cash swap was very much in view, the presidency said the CBN did not at that time need directive from President Muhammadu Buhari to comply with the Supreme Court order to extend the validity of the old Naira notes till December of 2023. Now, the aim of this morning's conversation, of course, just like our conversation yesterday, is to examine what were the essential failures of the cash swap policy with a bid to find answers to systemic gaps and improve future monitoring policies. The idea is to move promptly to understand what went wrong and determine how to fix it. And that's why we had, of course, anticipated that our in-house financial analyst, Kelechukwu Godfrey, would be here for us to be able to look at this subject. But moving ahead, let's look at the subject of subsidy removal on premium motor spirit, also known as petrol. Now, by the federal government, which had been grudgingly accepted by Nigerians as the right thing to do in the prevailing circumstances. Now, however, subsidy removal is akin to addressing the symptoms of a grave illness that could eventually lead to death. Now, one of the symptoms of malaria is headache. Now, treating the headache by assaulting it with painkillers only brings temporary relief. Likewise, in the same instance, the real treatment for the malady that would eventually give Nigerians succor is the revival of existing refineries. Mind you, what people usually see as a refinery is not the entirety of Nigerian refineries. Let's take the Kaduna refinery, for example. It has extensive pipeline networks delivering crude oil and distributing refined products all over northern Nigeria. Why would the government allow such an asset to be wasted? Big question. Well, the refineries can be privatized through public-private partnership or outright sale. If that is done, we will have a crude oil and refined products process that is based on Naira transactions. You cannot carry on business in Nigeria, especially when you are not in a free trade zone, and insist on being paid in dollars. Now, the answer lies not in the Dangote refinery, but in bringing the country's refineries back to life. The Dangote refinery is going to sell petrol to Nigeria in dollars. Now, that is a dilemma because this is a refinery situated in Nigeria, doing business in Nigeria, but expecting to be paid in dollars. Now, the same way, it would sell to importers from other African countries in dollars. Now, the only cost we would be saving is the shipping costs as far as the subject of the Dangote refinery is concerned. Now, there would still be pressure on the Naira because we would still be using dollars from our earned foreign exchange to pay Dangote refinery from for whatever petroleum products we get from the Dangote refinery. Whereas the country's refineries come alive and refining crude oil to finished products would constitute domestic trade and business, and the currency of transaction for domestic trade and business in Nigeria will be the Naira, not the dollar. They might even start exporting the product. That is talking about our local refineries if there is deliberate effort to make them functional and, result-oriented. Now, if we can do this, we might not even need to buy fuel from the Dangote refinery unless in comparative terms, Dangote's fuel is cheaper than that which is produced by Nigerian refineries. Big question. So, Before we take a break, let's see your reaction. What's your take on the thought that, or the school of thought, rather, that our refineries should be fully functional? Yeah, should be fully functional. The numbers to call, 091 60 333 965 and 091 60,000 965. And let's look at the subject of subsidy removal. Yes, subsidy removal. Now, for educational purpose, fuel subsidies are a form of government intervention to reduce the cost of fuel by providing direct financial support to oil companies and, as such, subsidize the cost to consumers. Now, that said, pricing of petroleum products has remained a significant issue in our nation, Nigeria. The government had, in the 70s, introduced subsidy as a temporal measure to provide relief to Nigeria over the inflated cost of petroleum products. I have my first caller on the line. Let's hear from this caller. And good morning.
Good morning, the beloved.
Yes, nice to have you join us. Your name and where you're reaching us.
Hussein Manode is the name I'm calling from Umai.
Hussein Manode, nice to have you. Happy New Month.
I wish you best, sir. I'm also known as the controversial.
It's good to know.
I'm now your namesake. I'm also known as the controversial.
It's good to know that I'm not the only controversial person in Nigeria. So, my brother, what's your take? First of all, of course, the cash swap policy of the CBN. Right now, we are counting down because, according to the judgment of the Supreme Court, the 100, 200, 500, 1,000 naira notes remain legal tender till the 31st of December. And, of course, the subject of fuel subsidy. It doesn't look like the Dangote refinery is the answer to our energy crisis.
My brother, let me start from petroleum first.
Yes.
Subsidy removal before CBN and their policies. Dangote can never be the solution to Nigeria's problem because you consider how many persons that we are in this country. You find out that Nigeria remains the largest populated country in all Europe. I mean Europe. So you give monopoly to one man to build a refinery. You think that it will solve to ameliorate the sufferings of the nation. After you might have removed subsidy. Subsidy removal has been here since 2012 when Jonathan, as the president, wanted to remove it. Unfortunately, the current president was among the people that went on a rampage. He led the protest in Lagos State, telling us that that's the only thing that a poor person in this country benefits from. I mean the subsidy. But they kicked against it. Jonathan, being a listening president, he considered that. And having an economist then, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, as the Minister of Finance and the madam that is controlling the economy. You know, when you put somebody that knows what she's doing or he's doing in right place, he will help you, assist you to get whatever thing you want. Fortunately, Jonathan decided not to remove subsidy. But this issue of the ones that we are experiencing today happens to be that the Mr. President was sworn in 29th May 2023. The first thing, the announcement he made after taking an oath, he told us that subsidy is gone and gone forever.
Yes.
Gone and gone forever. Without putting in place the measures that will ameliorate the suffering, knowing fully well that Nigerians are going to suffer whatever the negative effect of subsidy removal. Everybody saying that the subsidy, they have been manipulating subsidy, they use that avenue to steal Nigerians' money. It presents a country that wants to fight corruption as they claim from former President Muhammadu Buhari to our president today, Bola Tinubu. They should have brought to book. There's no how. I want few people will be greater than the whole populated Nigeria, or greater than Mr. President, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. It's very, very unfortunate. So I expected Mr. President to have called, sat down with the labor, sat down with the petroleum agency, sat down with marketers, talk about how to get a refinery or give permit to many people like Obu Kubana. They can build that small refineries that are doing they are using to do bunkering. Modular refineries. They can build anybody if you can afford to do it. Legalize it and give them opportunity to build refineries here and there in this country. Anybody that can, like Ibet or Inlawson, anybody that can build refineries. Cut down everything that make sure that assist them the way they assisted at Dangote, assist the other individuals to make sure that they get refineries before removing the subsidy. These are the things that, and I still believe that you should have allowed this subsidy to run throughout the year. Run throughout the year, they should be looking at 2024 budget. That is when they will remove that subsidy. So, but unfortunately, we saw how things are telling us that Dangote by July 1st, his refinery will start functioning. Everything will come down. Today, we are buying fuel 535 naira, 540, 550, depending on where you are getting it. Even in the one that are selling in the what's it called, NNPC. You can't get it less than 500 naira.
True.
Without any substantive provision to make sure that a poor person, I believe that it has been long they removed kerosene subsidy. Today we are buying kerosene that we used to buy during Jonathan's administration 15 naira per liter. We are getting kerosene now 800, 1,000 naira per liter. Cooking gas is the same thing. But this one that we are using the same thing. Then free that everybody is using now. They have told us that they have removed it without providing solution to the sufferings of the people. They remove subsidy, which increase the allocation of governors. This less allocation check that they went. I believe that some governors got what they times two of what former administrations used to get.
Yeah.
But what is it supposed? Has it going to put food on the table of the poor masses in this country? We're talking about school that they've increased tertiary institutions fee. Both federal, I don't know about state. If president the federal increases school fees, automatically the private ones and the state ones will they've increased their own as well. So this government, President Tinubu should have sat down with people that know what they are doing. Consult people. You don't just come up on air. You just announce subsidy is gone and gone forever. Up till now, we are still suffering it, and there's no other alternatives that maybe we are going to use. And people are trying to go and buy cooking gas. You use cooking gas to run your generator. It will last. After, do you know the implication of using gas to run
generator?
A carburetor that is made for fuel. It's very, very unfortunate. And how much are we buying gas? Gas is now 800 and even cooking gas is 820 or 850, depending on where you get the gas. So all these things will not solve the problem. Mr. President should have sat down, negotiated with people, just manage yourself, cut down the cost of the governance. I was telling somebody that if it's Trinidad and Tobago, I have a friend that lives there. He told me that a senator cannot afford to pay 2 workers or 2 aides. That he was in a bank. I called him one day. He said, I'm in a bank now. He's an Igbo guy. He's fine. He said, my man, I'm in a bank now. And I'm standing. A senator is standing behind me at the back. Not a senator of a country, Trinidad and Tobago. He said that he cannot manipulate or maneuver anybody to get whatever thing he wants. He will wait till his turn. And I was a senator that used to go with convoy in this Nigeria. Instead of my brother and Nigerian thing now, you know, go try for that place. They cut down the cost of governance. That is what make people now. They will spend whatever thing they have to make sure that they are there. None of the politicians, Nigerian politicians, none of them, I repeat, none of them meant well for the masses. All they are going there just for their personal interest before whatever thing that they go to. You're telling me that when somebody will spend like 500 million naira or 10 billion naira or 20 billion naira to become whatever thing, a senator, federal house member, house of assembly, a governor, he won't recover the money before talking about working for the people that are elected him.
Yeah.
So if Nigeria, these people should have cut down the causes of governance in this country if you want to make everything better. All this is about security vote, everything, reduce it drastically so that a poor man, the common man that you are claiming to protect their life, let the poor people breathe, to my brother.
All right. Thank you.
It's not just been easy for us.
Thank you so much.
If we talk about the salaries,
thank you.
Money value, you can't use the money and buy comfortable thing.
Yeah, thank you.
100,000 now go to Oriba market or Obani market, any market in Aba. You can't use it to get a tangible thing that will help you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow they will still come. House rent is here. They buy the bills on everywhere.
Thank
so,
you,
man.
You have truly tabled the matter. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Well, according to reports, the inflation cost of petrol products at that time was partly due to the poor performance of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, refineries, and the need for the importation of refined products to ensure petroleum products availability in the country. However, these subsidies have become increasingly sustainable in recent years, and this has crippled the economic development of our great nation, Nigeria. NNPC, being the supplier of last resort, had over the years adopted various product importation agreements such as direct product importation, offshore processing agreements or arrangement, OPA, exchange of crude oil for products arrangement, swap, and the direct sale, direct purchase, DS and DP arrangement. But today, the story is different. We'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, one of my guests is very much in the house, and we'll begin to talk a bit of monetary policy, and then, of course, look at the subject of the unveiling of Air Nigeria. Do stay with us.
Justy, this one where you put your hand under your jaw this early morning, wetin happen? Your goat don die.
Holy cap, leave me oh. If to say my goat die, that one better oh. All the goods wey dey my shop don expire finish. No market. Since morning, I never say even 1 naira.
Hey, you never hear about Rapid FM Ahiana Market.
Ahiana
Market na Rapid FM program where we go help you tell people wetin you dey sell, how you dey sell am, and where your shop dey with just take only 1,000 naira kpere. We go carry your business and put am for the next level. Or ya green us for phone with this number 080-6356-8266. Or you fit rush for Rapid FM Radio House behind New Government House Umahia, Abia State, Nigeria. Ahiana Market.
Let's do this, y'all. Come on. Do you think you're a fan of Rapid FM? Yeah.
I love Rapid FM.
I love Rapid FM.
This is the place to be. Simply Rapid.
Knock it out on the Fan Zone with Mr. McDoney,
where you must answer more questions about what happened yesterday on Rapid FM to win the #1 title, Rapid Biggest Fan of the Day.
Plus, you get to win other special prizes too. Amazing, right?
I love the sound of that.
Join the fan base representing your favorite shows every Monday to Friday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on the Fan Zone.
Fan Zone. Exclusive to Rapid 96.5 FM.
I'm your big fan. Follow you and say you love me.
Let's talk politics, dynamics, and permutations.
It is a concern that we have for our country, Nigeria. This is beyond partisan politics. It's unfortunate. And these are the kind of people who say that leaders of this country. What example are they showing as leaders of the country?
Let's keep you abreast with the happenings in the polity.
Nigeria is on drip and on oxygen. And how can we get out of this?
I am an employer of the president. I pay the president's salary. I pay the bills of his family. And he must protect me.
Standpoint. The center of all talks of politics.
Standpoint, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. on Rapid 96.5 FM, Umahia.
All Nigerian is more Nigerian than any Nigerian. That's right.
It's still Standpoint on Rapid 96.5 FM, the sound of your city. We naturally have got into almost the last lap of the show, but just to remind you that we are live and interactive on all our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Rapid965FM, and on Twitter, we are at Rapid965, and of course on Instagram, we are at Rapid965FM. Now, don't forget to be part of our growing online community by following and liking Rapid 965 FM on all our social media platforms and contributing to the ongoing conversation like we're having right here on Standpoint. And trust us to share your views and comments on the show. And just as I did tell you, my guest eventually made it to the studio, and it's great to have you join us, Godfrey Kelechukwu Godfrey, a business analyst.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It's good to be back on the show.
All right, so Godfrey, time fast spent, but let's see what we can do with the time we have left. What were the essential failures with regards to the cash swap policy? Right as it stands now, the based on the Supreme Court ruling, the 100 naira, 200, 500, 1,000 naira notes, old notes, stand valid till December 31st of 2023.
Yeah, that was the last development that happened according to that policy. And basically, there were some areas the CBN was lacking in. I would always say that one of that was effective communication and inclusion. They needed to be an effective communication between the CBN and the banks with the people who are end users, and also like I said earlier, inclusion. There was supposed to be like a public inclusion in the play. You're doing monetary policies to ease the mode of business in the economy. You're not supposed to worsen it. You're not supposed to make it harder. And like I wrote earlier on, I said you don't use monetary policies to fight institutional decay. That was one major thing. And I noticed that more or so, instead of monetary policy to be helping to make ease of business more flexible, it was actually fighting institutional decay. And that is not what the CBN was created for. It was not one of their standpoints, or part of their reason of existence. So these were the major fallouts that the CBN had. Honestly, that these were the areas they should have worked on, developed on, and actually, done more precise policies to actually help make up. We've done this before. The CBN has actually had a currency change before. You could remember as far back in 2005 when we brought in the polymer. I mean, you could easily walk into the bank, drop the old ones, and take the new ones. It was very, very flexible, and that was done for a very long period of time till the old ones were phased out.
True.
And then we had the 100 naira centenary note. You could easily get it anywhere. And from there on, the old ones phased out. So I was expecting the same thing to happen with this one. But the whole cramped deadline, it has to be now, it has to be in 3 months and everything. You could see how it affected the economy later. I mean, we would have had a better scenario if it was more planned. I mean, by now, we should have more. Even till now, we don't even have it in the system. If you go around, you rarely see people
use the new notes.
You don't even see it anywhere. So I feel there should have been more public inclusion in all of this and more communication. And I feel there was a huge gap, and the gap kept filling up with things that were not even being said. So these are the things the CBN needs to work on. We are still looking at the deadline of 31st December, and we are hoping if they can actually achieve it by that period.
Okay. Now, let's shift gear a bit to the unveiling of Nigerian Air. Now, the immediate past Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, had said that the federal government had spent less than 3 billion naira on the Nigerian Air project. Now, the former minister said the total money budgeted for the project in the last 7 years was 5 billion naira, of which only 3 billion was released. Now, Sirika further said the bulk of the money was spent on consultancies, salaries, and administrative costs, stating that the 85 billion naira spent on Nigerian Air was false and baseless, as reported in the conventional media. On a total money for the establishment of Nigerian Air, the minister said the total market capitalization was $200 million, out of which all shareholders would pay accordingly to their shares. Now, I think the question, as far as the average Nigerian is concerned, was the unveiling of Nigerian Air scam.
I feel that was the biggest heist pulled in the Nigerian. I feel it was the biggest heist ever pulled in the Nigerian in the Buhari administration. I mean, I was talking to a friend in the aviation sector. He said 85 billion can get you the latest Boeing, 2 of it, and that can actually would have given Nigeria a head
But he's
start.
claiming we didn't spend 85 billion.
No, even if we didn't spend 85 billion, the 5 billion that you claimed was spent, why was it just basically for consultancy and administration? I mean, you have people in. You have FAN, for crying out loud. So what are you still consulting about? You have FAN. You have your Ethiopian Airliners brothers. Why are you spending that huge bulk sum on just consultation alone, when you can just call and ask questions and you can have things done? I was in Abuja recently. While I was flying back, I passed through and I saw the Nigerian Air building. It was totally empty. So if you're saying administrative expenses, who did you pay? Who did you employ? Because I didn't see you put an application for employment. There was no recruitment for pilots. There was no recruitment for air hostess. Now that is even one of my major questions. You brought in a plane. Where is the plane? You just brought in a plane for a facade or for a show. And like I said, it was one of the biggest. Nigerians don't deserve this. These are taxpayers' money, for crying out loud. This is your money. This is my money. This is money we pay to the government, and someone is toying with it, and we cannot even hold the person accountable or responsible. It's this news today, that news tomorrow. I think Nigerians are too smart to have these people tell us things that are unbelievable.
But I think one of the most common asked question now is, do we really need a national carrier?
Yes, we do need a national carrier. We talked about how the high rate of fuel at this point, the PMS inflation, it's too much. I mean, imagine me paying roughly $30 to travel by road from here to Lagos, and me paying $44,000 on airpiece from Owerri to Lagos. We need subsidized air travels. We need something to cushion the effect of the PMS, and air travels is one of them. So if I can basically fly by air from Lagos to Abuja at 30,000-40,000 instead of spending so much time on the road, that would be very flexible, and you would see that people would actually do that more than actually go by road more. And let's not forget that air travel is one of the safest way to travel. It's actually one of the safest way, minus the air crashes that happen. It is actually one of the safest way to travel. So imagine the amount of deaths you can cushion by just floating a national carrier. And we have so many. This is going to add to our GDP.
But there are schools of thought that suggest that we have private airlines that could suffice for national carrier at the moment, considering our current economic circumstance, that you have Air Peace, you have several of them. And Air Peace, for one, has shown credibility in the aviation industry in the last couple of years.
True. The same way we have Dangote cement. We have Dangote fertilizer, and yet farmers cannot still get fertilizer. It's expensive for them. I mean, I go to my village and they sell fertilizers in pints, not in bags. And I asked the lady why, and she's like, my son, I cannot afford a bag of fertilizer, but I can afford a pint of fertilizer. So let's be honest, in as much as we are indigenous producers, we have indigenous people in the private sector playing out. They are playing out to make their profits. That is the basic truth. Alan Oyema has to make profits to keep Air Peace in business. Dana Airline has to make profit to keep Dana in business. They have staff to pay. They are still paying tax to the government. And for every place they have a carrier, they still pay tax in that country. I believe so. If they are flying to Joburg, South Africa, they need to pay tax, remit tax to the South African government. If they're flying to Dubai, they need to remit tax to the Dubai government. If they can get subsidized policies for air carriage, then we have things to talk about. But the Nigerian government is not even giving them subsidy as it stands now. So at this point, even if we have indigenous air carriers, they still need to pay. And we need to pay them for them to still be in business. It's not that easy. We have NNPC selling fuel at their own price. We have other oil marketers selling fuel at their own price because they still need to pay in business. You gave them to sell at a certain quota. The question is that quota even enough to still keep them in business? What is the ease of doing business? We've been asking this question over and over again. How much do I need to spend to make 1 naira?
Sadly, time is not our friend. But before we call it a wrap, what's your take on fuel subsidy, the removal of fuel subsidy?
Fuel subsidy should have done earlier, very, very early. In Jonathan's time, as far back as 2013, 2014, Jonathan planned on removing fuel subsidy, and then we had a commotion and there were strikes. Him taking that fuel subsidy, fuel will have been sold at 200 naira, and assuming it was being sold at 200 naira as of that time, I don't believe we'll be getting to the point we are now. But because it was done later, I mean, we are now. It would have been better we suffered it then, and by now it would have eased off. That we're suffering it now, and we now have to watch it ease.
Now there's inflation.
There's just a whole lot. Now we're looking at the floating of the dollar. We're looking at fuel going to 700 in the coming days. A common man who cannot even. Okay, now I was talking to somebody. They said the average income per day per household is roughly about $1. $1 is about 700. So imagine me making 700 every day, and I'm needing to buy fuel because there's no light. And now we're looking at the fact that the discos have increased the tariff by 40%. Everything is just going up, and salaries are still the same. The minimum wage is still 30,000. So the federal government said they've saved 400 billion in the past couple of weeks or in the past month from fuel subsidy. The question is, where is that money going to be channeled to? Or are we going to see? So is it 400 billion or 400 million? Or are we going to see another another Nigerian air scam again? These are the questions. I keep telling people Nigeria does not have a money-making problem. Nigeria has a spending problem. And that spending problem has affected each and every single Nigerian.
Well, Kelechukwu, again, time, not our friend. Somehow, we will find a way to have this conversation again.
Thank you, sir.
We need to look, because the whole essence is to be able to prefer workable solutions for our government in terms of monetary policy, in terms of a new look at our energy downstream sector, and possibly our aviation industry as well. These are major developments that have happened in the first 6 months of the year, and right now Nigerians are waiting for an economic policy on the part of government to determine what trajectory we are going towards before the year 2023 is over. Well, thank you. I know you had some challenges getting here on time, but as I said, hopefully we will get to do this again. Well, that's the much we can take on this special focus edition of Standpoint. Trust us to be back tomorrow as we continue to keep our ears to the ground and our searchlight beamed on developments right here from Abia, God's own state, and gradually spread our dragnet across Nigeria and the world at large. I am Kamian John, the beloved, also known as the controversial, and it's nice. Man, no man, my fellow controversial brother, thanks for calling and being part of the conversation. Special thanks to my producer, Kingsley Onwuka, and of course, my production assistant and researcher, Priscilla, and of course, Odomena Michael, for ensuring that all the elements of the show are in place for us to have a smooth program. At the top of the hour, it will be Newslight on Rapid 96.5. Do stay tuned.
Let's talk politics, dynamics, and permutations.
It is a concern that we have for our country, Nigeria.